Welcome back, everyone. We've got another episode of the Even Your Dynasty show. Caveman's in the house.
Caveman.
What's up?
What's good?
What? Yeah, how you doing, man?
Doing all right, brother. How are you?
They were pretty good. We had the little one's birthday this week, and a little bit of a busy week. Family all in town. Most of them are gone now. Just the mother-in-law in the house now. So, yeah.
There you go. How was the party?
It was good. It was good. There were like not like insanely big. We had like less than 40 people, maybe like 35 or so there. But yeah, it was good. And the weather was great until about 8 o'clock, and we got thunderstorms. So welcome to Washington. It was it was pretty fun though overall. So
That's cool though. It's kind of like a party for the little one and a party for getting over 500 again, eh?
Yeah. to be fair, they were under 500 during the party because it was the game that the A's shut them out, and I was like, well, this is a good one to miss.
Yeah.
I was kind of checking the scores, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not sad about this.
You're like, yeah, not missing nothing. Nope.
Yep. Don't feel bad.
No, not at all.
No, it was all good. But yeah, so everybody, welcome. If for those that are filtering your way in, we're gonna kind of change the format of this today a little bit. We're gonna try and do like 3 main topics, and then we'll kind of kick it to questions and things like that at the end, and just kind of interact with the chat a little bit. I know we're kind of aiming for like a hard stop at about 9:30 tonight, so we'll kind of run there. What's up, Kevin? So
try something new.
But yeah, try something new. So we're gonna start off. We're gonna talk about a little bit about the this past series. We'll talk a little bit about the road trip coming up. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the coaching staff and, Bob Melvin and the rest of the coaching staff. I'm not going to just pin the whole blame on Melvin, but we're going to talk about the coaching staff, see kind of how much blame we think they deserve for what's going on in San Francisco. And then we'll talk a little bit about Elias Diaz, who's opted for free agency. He went unclaimed from waivers, and how much sense he would make for the Giants, and kind of situationally with that one, because I know for me it's kind of dependent.
No, absolutely.
On how they, if it's just for this year or multiple years. So yeah, we'll get into that, and then we'll kick it to the mailbag and all that stuff. Any questions people pop in the chats. What's going on, Mark? Welcome in. So yeah, so we'll kick it off with this past series. Giants lose or split the series against Oakland. Last series in Oakland, they take 2 of 3 from Chicago, which somehow feels disappointing. For a team that had like 31 wins or something coming into this series.
Yeah.
They go 3-2 since our last show last week, but amongst that's coming off going 3-4 against Detroit and Atlanta. And, it felt like the opportunity in the schedule. This was the spot where they could have really felt like they needed to go like 8-4 at worst. And they could have finally put some distance between themselves and 500 a little bit, gone on a little bit of a run. And here we find them one game over. They went 6-6 in the 12 games. And it's just, as they have found a way to do all season, they just thoroughly disappoint us and underwhelm us. So,
no, yeah, that's the best way to sum it up. I mean, coming into these last 2 series against Oakland and Chicago is kind of like, all right, you've got 2 winnable series in front of you in which you should lose 1 game between the 2 series at most. And I mean, split a series and win a series. I mean, in a perfect world, that'd be acceptable. But at this point in the season, it's starting to get to crunch time. So I feel like we should have done more. It was a little bit disappointing in Oakland, and then I thought we should have had the series against Chicago. So the ending was a little disappointing. So it's just like, if you contain or if you keep going at this pace, it's not going to be enough, plain and simple, for a wild card spot. So they got to turn up the notch, and they got to do it now.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, in a normal situation, like early in the year, if you take 2 of 3 from Chicago, I'm just gonna be like, cool, move on. Like that's
Exactly.
fine. Nobody's gonna be mad about that. But the reality is they put themselves in a situation where they had to sweep. They
Yes.
can't afford to be dropping a game to Chicago, especially when it's the third game of the series and you already took the first two. It's like it just leaves a sour taste on Logan Webb Day, and he gives you 8 innings of 2-run ball, and you can't scratch across 3 runs for the guy. And
Yeah.
yeah, he gets pulled. And we're going to talk a little bit about the decision making there. I know I'm not going to get too mad about pulling Webb in that situation, given that it sounds like he's dealing with some physical stuff and he just getting over being sick. That's fine. But it's a game that you just cannot afford to lose. And unfortunately, they did. And
Yeah.
now we're stuck one game over 500. They're going to Seattle. They're going to Milwaukee. These are going to be two tough, series to play. I'm actually going to the game tomorrow against Seattle. So
Nice.
I went to the River Cats game 2 days ago, and they had 3 total
Right.
hits. So if the Giants forget their offense, everyone can just blame me for that one. So we'll see. I think it's supposed to be Birdsong. I'm kind of hoping that I'm kind of hoping that they use the day off today as an excuse to skip his start and let Snell pitch. But
That'd
we'll
be
see.
that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'd love to see Blake Snell pitch while he's still a Giant,
Right.
because I do not
Yeah.
have faith that they're going to re-sign him.
Nope, me
But
neither.
yeah,
But
I
it's
mean,
a different topic.
yeah, but I mean, they're in a spot where they pretty much have to win what 4 at least in this road trip, and then you come home to Miami, and they kind of have to sweep Miami. And I mean, the Giants have shown they can't sweep anybody not named the Rockies in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So it's getting to be a really tall order. I mean, we're looking at them needing to win about 2/3 of their games coming in. They have what 32,
Yep.
33? I think 33 left. And they
33.
need to go like 21 and 12, probably.
Yeah. That's
Have
what
a
I
shot.
texted you earlier today. It's getting to the point where you at minimum have to win 21 games before now and the end of the season, which is that attainable, especially with the September schedule? I don't know. That's why you had to capitalize on these last 2 series for sure.
Yeah. Giants are inconsistent as can be. Terrible optics on this team. The only starting position players that should come back are Ramos, Bailey, Fitzgerald, Jung-Hoo Lee, and Chapman. We need 3 or 4 impact bats. Yeah, I mean,
I feel like we've said this for 5 years now, though.
yeah. Yeah, we only need a 2, 3, and 4 hitter and a 5 hitter, and we're good.
Yeah.
And then probably another starting pitcher and a closer. But other than that, we're good. The team's great. God.
Yeah.
Yeah. George, so do I. I wish we could go 21 and 12 too, but I genuinely, I don't want anyone to think I'm sitting here being like this. I don't want them to do well or blah, blah, blah. Like, we want them to do well. I hope nothing more than that they pull this out and they prove me wrong here. Like, I've said this so many times that it's like, I'm not rooting for them to play 500 ball. I'm sick of watching them play 500 ball. I just don't see them. They've given me no indication that they are capable of pulling out a 21 and 12 month against the people they're playing.
Yeah.
So
let me chime in with Marty real quick. Marty, so I don't like and agree with a lot of the Bo Mel criticism for the previous game. I understand where it's coming from like a fan's perspective, but going into the game, their plan for Webb was 7 innings, and they had a pitch limit. I would assume it was around 90 innings. So go past the 7th inning. Webb said he wanted one more. Mind you, he's still sick. He's feeling better from it, but he's still sick. And he's dealing with something on the physical side, which hasn't really been disclosed, but he's not 100%. So he went an extra inning than he was supposed to. It's not like he was pulled just based off of, Bob Melvin's decision alone. If it was up to Bob Melvin, he would have been pulled after the 7, just looking out for his own well-being. So it was a whole, discussion and agreement across the board. Now, do I agree with them giving the ball to Bivens? Not necessarily, but I understand it because they're trying to go based off the righty-lefty matchup. I probably would have thrown anybody else in there. Me personally speaking, just because Bivens hasn't been super sharp lately. But that's why. So I want to put a lot of the blame on Bomel for the the Webb decision. And your reference to Pat Burrell, Pat has nothing to do with the problems. If anything, he's been one of the bright spots on the coaching staff, which we'll touch on that later. If you're going to point a finger at anybody on the hitting staff per se, it should be Justin Veely, plain and simple. Because a lot of these issues that we've been dealing with have literally been prominent since Veely's been employed, and they haven't improved.
Yeah.
So he's the one that's got to go before Pat.
It's hard to pin too much on Burrell when most of the issues predate Burrell.
Exactly.
Like, just they, and guys like Chapman come in and they're going to do what they do, and guys, some of the guys that come in this season, like, yeah, you can maybe pin some blame on Burrell when it's like guys like Chapman or Soler, and Chapman's inability to be great in situational hitting. I'm not saying he hasn't been a very good player for the Giants this season, just he has struggled situationally throughout the year. Soler wasn't great for a large chunk of the year. If you want to pin some blame on Burrell for those guys, sure, but there too many guys on this roster have been around with Veely as the primary guy for a long time. And I've also given Veely credit where it's due with guys like Ramos, who has said, he worked with Veely every day in the offseason and he felt like it set him up. I think with Ramos, give Veely his credit and also give Damon Minor his credit down in Sacramento, and give Elliott his credit for, figuring out a lot of the stuff that he needed to work on and improving. So, but yeah, I have a hard time getting on Burrell, and I'm going to be going off on Bomel and the whole coaching staff here in a little bit when we cut over to that part. As much as I don't think they're 100% to blame, and there's a lot of blame that goes above them, they definitely deserve their share, because quite frankly, the coaching this season has been terrible.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, George. Fortunately, Burrell has not helped remedy the poor situational hitting we hit like Burrell hit in the 2010 World Series. Yeah. Burrell could not make contact in that series. It was rough.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but there were a couple bright spots this week. As bad as the week was, McRae started off as a bright spot, and then he ended it by striking out like 8 out of 9 times, or eight bats out of like 9 appearances or something like that. But his defense was a bright spot for sure.
Very good.
Chapman made a couple plays that, he's making them almost daily or weekly, at least at this point, where he makes a few plays at third where you just shake your head. And also I think he hit 1 or 2 out. He's up to 20.
Yeah.
So, he has 20 homers, 30 doubles, and 12 stolen bases or something like that. I don't think any of us could have hoped for that much production out of him with 33 games to go. So definitely going to give him credit on that. Who else? Ramos had a, pretty solid week overall. Missed a home run by inches the other day.
Literally inches.
Yeah, a couple doubles too. And
probably 2. Yeah. That one that he hit off the bricks probably would have been gone in a normal
lot of parts.
Ballpark. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the hard thing for Ramos, where and I kind of mentioned it with Luciano too, where so much of their power is the other way and up the middle. Where I give Ramos more credit is more of Ramos's power is up the middle. He will go to the right field, but he does a better job when he hits him to center field. He hits him like 430, 448, like he did in Oakland the other day. He hits these big flies, the straightaway center. Luciano, I don't feel like I really see hit the 440-foot homers to center. He puts him 400 to right center, which in our park is either an out or a double or a triple. It's like it's not leaving the yard. So that's where I struggle with Luciano in this park. Not saying I would dump him or anything like that. I really like Marco. Marco actually hit one to center field in the game in Tacoma yesterday. That would have been a home run even in Oracle. They have a 425-foot fence with the batter's eye.
He hustled for a triple there, though. You love to see that.
Yeah. I'll try and get that video sent over here while we're going, and I'll share that one with everybody. But it it was some really big time hustle from Marco. It was nice to see. I feel like we struggle to see that at times out of him. Like I want to see a little more fire out of him, a little more edge.
Yeah.
I just too laissez-faire for me at times. I get why, and maybe it's just his personality. It makes him, some of the coaches have that impression that he doesn't, his work ethic isn't the greatest. I don't know. I've always felt like it's more of a personality thing with him than anything, but
he reminds me a lot of like Doval personality wise. They're just
yes,
very chill, very laid back. And you want to see that, that fire, but a lot of times it's just not who they are. But I also think part of it, because Farhan kind of touched on it a couple weeks ago when he said that Luciano's legs haven't really been 100% for a while, kind of been dealing with something. So it was nice to see the hustle last night. It kind of makes me believe that maybe health-wise he's starting to turn things around as well, because typically you wouldn't have seen that type of hustle, running-wise. So it's just overall nice to see.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say they sure looked healthy on that play.
Exactly.
he looked great on that one. And
now
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, who looks beyond healthy in the minors right now? Bryce Eldridge, baby. Man, he's just crushing them right now. I love it.
I don't know if any of you guys saw the home run he hit yesterday, but it went 461 feet. It was like a 109 exit velocity.
Dude, you couldn't even see where it landed.
Yeah. It's they're playing out in Tri-Cities, which is like central Washington. It's like it's high desert. It's like the kind of like the Central Valley in the sense that, like, if you get out to what, I don't know, like Stanislaus or some of those smaller, not Tracy, Modesto or any of that, because that's all super crowded now. But like if you go to like some of the smaller towns in the Central Valley, that's kind of like what Tri-Cities is. And he hit it out in this like grass area that looked like it could be a cow pasture, and it the ball just went forever.
It was funny when you texted that to Ricky and I, and Ricky goes, "The ball probably hit a cow or something."
Yeah, exactly. That thing was just nuked. I mean, that guy has so much power.
I'm telling you, they got to move him up to Richmond. It's time. It's time. I don't care if he's 19, bro. It's time.
Yeah. Get him to Richmond. And I know there's a lot of people that are like, I want to see him in San Francisco next season. If they do pull it out or pull it off and he makes it to San Francisco, I'm not going to be like mad that they brought him up earlier or anything like that. I've said I just want his development done properly. If he forces his way up, awesome. Play him. I don't care. But yeah, my hopes are still opening day 2026. Like I want him to be the opening day 2026 first baseman and just take the job and go from there. Because good Lord, that guy can hit a baseball. And it's been a while since we Giants have had a prospect where I felt like, oh, that guy was born to hit a baseball, and he's on that list.
He's going to be a superstar, no doubt about it.
I agree. I agree, and I very rarely ever throw that out with prospects. Like Luciano, I was like, yeah, he's got superstar potential. Doesn't look like he's going to reach it, but he's 22 and things can happen. He obviously has the tools. Yeah. Eldridge is totally like Luciano has never had a season like what Eldridge is doing right now. He's had little stretches where you like just go, wow, watching him play. But Eldridge, like, he's doing this throughout a season. I think he's at 78 RBIs right now.
Yeah.
In like 90 games.
It's insane what he's doing.
It's insane. It's awesome. So we'll see what he does in Richmond once he gets the call up. I really wish I could get down to a Eugene game right now, because watching Eldridge and Tibbs and Arteaga and, County and Cox, all these guys, there's just a whole bunch of guys. So yeah, it looks like a good group. But we'll kick it over to the next topic here. What's up, Cameron? Welcome. We're going to kick it over to the next topic here. We're going to talk a little bit about Bob Melvin. We kind of touched on it for a second, but we're going to talk a little bit about Bob Melvin, the coaching staff, and kind of how much blame do you think they deserve for the season they're having right now? They're 65 and 64. They have 33 games left. They signed all this talent. Now, I mean, we've commented on how, it's a flawed roster and things like that, but they have all this talent that they bring in. and it feels like they're, underperforming, failing to meet expectations, just an overall underwhelming group.
Yeah.
They've been this team for 3 straight years now. So to me, a lot of it, as we mentioned earlier, it predates Melvin and all these guys, but it just feels like he cannot hit the right buttons at all. Someone called him the anti-Bochy at one point. I laughed, but there's a level of truth to it right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
So I understand a lot of the frustration. I kind of touched on this earlier. I understand a lot of it, where it's coming from. Here's my honest thoughts about it. It's more than just a managerial issue. To me, you look at the common denominator. What's the common denominator? I tweeted about this. What's the common denominator between Gabe Kapler and Bob Melvin and a lot of the issues that we're having right now? What's the similarity between the two of them? It's right there. It's right there. It's Farhan Zaidi. Okay. I've touched on this plenty of times in the past. He's involved a lot more than we think. It's not just, the business and prospect and development side of things. He's in the day-to-day operations. There's no question about it. Because if you're comparing Bob Melvin's career, 3-time manager of the year, what he's done with a lot of trash, with low payroll, with development of prospects, like if you look at Bob Melvin's track record, he's proven that he's one of the better managers of, the 2000s and 2010s. But it's one of those things where you can put any manager on this team and under Farhan Zaidi, and they're not going to succeed. You could have put Stephen Vogt on this team this year, and he would have struggled being under Farhan Zaidi. Meanwhile, he's thriving in Cleveland. It's a president of baseball operations / GM, but I don't give Pete Patilla too much heat. He's actually been decent since he's been moved into that role. But you look at that, that branch right there and everything that kind of trickles down from it. And I think that's where a lot of the problems reside from. And then I touched on this earlier as well. If you're going to point at, the hitting issues with this team and, the situational hitting and runners in scoring position and, a lot of these issues that we've been mentioning for quite some time, these issues have been prevalent since, for the last 4 years. And look who's been at the core and who's been employed during that tenureship. It's been Justin Veely. Clearly his, methodology and his philosophy doesn't work. And, things aren't changing. It's still a mediocre, offense. So if you were asking me, what can you do to immediately upgrade a lot of the issues on this team? You fire Farhan, you fire Veely, you place them with literally anybody else. And I think, you could only go up from there.
Yeah. So George says Giants coaching staff is responsible for at least 7 to 10 losses, poor decision-making with bullpen and pinch hitting, very poor decisions on the 9th and in extra innings.
Yeah.
I mean, Melvin's track record since the rule change in extra innings is not great.
Yeah.
Like it's really not. I mean, he was terrible in San Diego last season. He's been terrible this season. And this is where he's going to get some heat, and it's deserved. Like he's not been great this year. He's not even really been good this season. But I struggle with how much blame you can really put on the guy when Farhan Zaidi's running the team. Yep. I mean, it is a flawed roster, and I'm not going to absolve, Melvin from any blame because it's a flawed roster. They filled the roster with a bunch of guys that have swing and miss. And then we get mad that they can't hit situationally. And it's like, gee, who would have saw that coming? Like it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. But, and also they got a bunch of guys that don't really have defined roles on this team. Yeah. That's another issue. But I don't understand why there's no ability to just give the manager the full autonomy to make the daily decisions with the roster, with the lineups, with the, how they do everything. Because they run this team exactly like they did under Kapler, except for there are like there are very minor differences where you can see Melvin trying to go with his gut at times. He'll occasionally run, drop a bunt down, which hasn't worked out at certain times. He's trying to do some things. He'll occasionally do, put guys into motion. He'll occasionally do some things that he's trying to get them going. But they have a roster that's built to have a Gabe Kapler running it. Yeah. Farhan Zaidi built a split heavy, platoon heavy, whatever you want to call it, roster. And basically, unless you're going to run it by the data 100% of the time, which Kapler did without fail, you're probably going to underperform even as bad as this roster is, or as much as this roster is not great, you're going to underperform that. So that's where I struggle with it. I feel like Melvin with a better team as far as more defined roles would be a good manager. I think Melvin with a young team where he's allowed to just roll with the young guys, develop them, would be a better manager. I just think this current roster is not suited for a guy like Bob Melvin.
Agreed. It's just not a good fit. It's not that he's a bad manager. He's just a bad fit. And it all points to Farhan Zaidi and how he's constructed it and has his dirty little fingers in on the day-to-day operations. Why? I have no idea. Pride, ego? I don't know. But that's why I just emphasize, man. It's time to go, man. And I don't want to be negative. I don't want to, bark up that tree and, I don't want to kick that and beat that dead horse, but we've been saying this for so long, and you can only, you and I talked about it a little bit today, where it's just yes, if you're comparing, pre-Farhan to 2024 Farhan, yes, the farm has more potential now than it did 7 years ago, but it took you 5-6 years to have a decent, a decent farm system, and it's just too little too late. And just in general, like George says right here, we need all around better players. Farhan hasn't proven that he can land those, though. That's the issue here.
Yeah.
The only reason that we were able to get Snell and Chapman is because Bob Melvin was hired. I guarantee you, if Bo Mel isn't the manager and we got Kapler, or let's just say hypothetically, we didn't fire Kapler and didn't bring in Bo Mel, you don't have Blake Snell on this team. You don't have Matt Chapman on this team, and those have been two of the highlights of the 2024 Giants. And Farhan's not to credit for that. He gave them the most flexible deals ever for him and the Johnsons. They signed purely because, the market wasn't there and they wanted to play for Bo Mel. So that's just the sad reality of it.
Yeah. And that's where, Bo Mel wasn't my first choice. Anybody that knows, I'm on the record, I wanted Steven Vogt.
Yeah.
I constantly said I wanted Steven Vogt in the offseason, and they didn't go that route. It is what it is. And, would he have succeeded here under Farhan? I don't know. I'm not sure if anybody would have really succeeded under Farhan. But I would have felt good, or better about Vogt than I do about Bo Mel. But that's not to say I do think Bo Mel's a decent manager, and he has his flaws. The way he handles the pen.
That's his kryptonite.
The way he handles the pen, and some of that is who he has. But I'm going to use this last game for example. They literally went with the bases loaded. They went to the worst guy in their pen that they could go to.
Yeah,
you cannot go to Spencer Bivens there. And I get it's, the right-hander and it's a righty-righty matchup, but the numbers don't lie. Eric Miller, his batting average, the right-handers were hitting 223 against him. Spencer Bivens are hitting 255.
Yeah.
The numbers don't lie. And if we want to go the, Miller's, throwing 22 pitches or whatever, I don't really care. I trust him way more than I do Bivens in that spot. And the real issue I had, because I don't really have the issue pulling Webb, as Dan said earlier, Webb was dealing with some physical stuff. He was probably not available. The issues I have are you don't go to Walker, who's now your closer, which allegedly wasn't available, which I find to be completely asinine. He threw 11 pitches on Tuesday. On Yeah, Tuesday. Sorry, I was getting my days mixed up. He
There
threw
you
a whole 11 pitches, didn't pitch Monday, threw 11 pitches on Tuesday, and they had a day off today. You're telling me this guy couldn't have gone out there to get
Yeah.
an out?
1
Like,
out.
and if you don't want to go Walker, why are we not throwing here we go. Thank you, George. Why are we not throwing Taylor Rogers, who is on a week's rest?
Yeah.
Who has closing experience, who has like a sub 2 ERA in the ninth inning this season when he's been pitching in the ninth. That how are we not going to Taylor Rogers in this situation? And
I
we're
think
going like, is he injured and no one knows? Like,
I think you hit the nail on the head when you in your tweet the other day when you were like, they can't even do the analytics right.
yeah.
Like it's true because I mean the whole reason that they did it was the righty matchup, but like you touched on, Eric Miller has a lower ERA against righties than Spencer Bivens does. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's brutal. Like that's the stuff where I'm like, I can't defend it. Like those are the things I can't defend. I've found ways to defend a lot of other mistakes he's made or moves he's made because, at the end of the day, I'm a big believer in the players are the ones out there on the field. And, I'm not going to get mad. Like when Fitzgerald failed to get the bunt down like a week or so ago, it was like, Fitzgerald's done a lot of great things. He didn't get the bunt down. And it's like, why are we having Fitzgerald bunt there? And it's like, okay, we can argue whether or not they should have had Fitzgerald bunt all day long. He needs to get the bunt down. And he didn't. Like, I can't blame Bob Melvin for him not getting a bunt down. But, like, I just couldn't. I couldn't with the bullpen usage in that game against Chicago. I'm like, this is just horrible on every level. So it's just frustrating. Like the whole thing has just been really, really frustrating. And I wonder if they just need guys with more defined roles. I wonder if, maybe he struggles. Bochy always, it was feel he'd bring guys in for one batter and they can't do that anymore with the 3 batter minimum and things like that. Maybe Melvin's just struggling to adjust to that.
I mean, he's an old school manager.
Yeah. I don't know. You see, I will say the one other difference I see with Melvin more is he does try to let the starters go longer than Kapler ever did.
Oh, for sure.
To a fault sometimes, but there have been a few times where we're like, why is this guy still out there? Birdsong getting lit up in the second inning in Washington. He throws like 40 pitches and they put him out for the third. It's like, dude, like get him out. So, but as a whole, I appreciate that he does that. In the big picture.
We saw Kapler take his pitcher out in the third inning, fourth inning at 40, 50 pitches just because of the matchup. We saw him burn the entire bench just because the analytics were going righty, lefty, lefty. And he would have nobody off the bench in the seventh inning. So, I mean, yeah, it's a breath of fresh air for sure.
Maybe forgot which twin was available.
Let's go play outside. They both cannot play outside.
Oh, that's hilarious. It's like the twin. What is it? The thing where like the twins have they're I don't even know what they call it. Like they're always on the same. Yeah. And it's like if he's feeling tired, I'm feeling tired. I can't throw. It's hilarious. But yeah, no, I mean on the whole, I want Farhan gone above anything. Like I think you got to move Farhan, and then to me, just whoever comes in can make the decision on Bomel. I'm not opposed to Bomel getting another season because he is a 3-time manager of the year. He knows what he's doing. He's just not a good fit currently, and maybe he's just maybe the game's passing him. Who knows? But this is a guy that's been a really good manager for a really long time and pretty recently. So it's not like I think he just forgot how to do what he's doing.
Yeah.
But that said, I'd really like to see Farhan gone. I'd really love it if they get rid of Veely. I just don't like the hitting philosophy of this franchise for the last 3 or so years.
What I would do, get rid of Veely, keep Pat, and promote Damon Minor. Minor's proven he can develop these guys in AAA. Pair him up with a veteran like Pat Burrell. Like, dude, you can only succeed with that. So I would go with that duo.
Yeah, Damon Miner's done an awesome job in Sacramento. There's a few guys that have not quite met expectations down there, but I mean that's going to happen every year. You're never going to bat 1,000, so to speak.
Blake
Yeah. Sable, in fairness, Luis Matos has been largely disappointing in AAA this season. Granted, Miner was there last season and Matos was amazing, so I'm not gonna be like, oh, he forgot how to coach. But Matos is having a rough year. Luciano's having a rough year. But a few guys have gone there and they've done better. Guys like McRae was doing really well in AAA. Brett Wisely was doing really well early in the year. Ramos was doing really well early in the year. There's a lot of guys that have been successful. Casey Schmidt had looked like he was taking strides in AAA, was looking really good in AAA. A lot of guys that have made progress in AAA under Damon Miner. He's a guy I would be totally for if they wanted to bring him up as the hitting coach and give him an opportunity. Or, hey, here's a name for you. How about Travis Ishikawa?
Yeah.
Burrell came straight up from San Jose.
Yeah. Where's isn't Panic a first base coach?
I'm not sure. Panic's like that one. I'm not positive on. I'd have to look.
He's some sort of coach. I just don't know what.
I saw him in Richmond like a month ago. Yeah. I just saw he was in Richmond for one of their games. So I'm not sure.
I don't know.
But yeah. To me, it should be up to the next Pobo though. Who stays? Yeah. So just
I would probably
go from there.
I would probably move Pete Patilla up to Pobo.
I would be all for it. Honestly, I like Pete Patilla.
I give Patilla a lot of I give him a lot of credit for the last 2 drafts.
Yeah. Look, and I can understand why people are like, Pete Patilla is just, he needs to go with Farhan. I understand the people that want to clean out the entire front office. I get it. And if the Giants were to go that route, I can't say I necessarily would be thinking that it's a bad thing. Yeah. But that said, since Pete Patilla has come up, there's been a couple things 3 things specifically that have improved since he's been here after Scott Harris left. Number 1, they've been way more aggressive moving guys through the minor leagues. Yeah. I don't know if you guys all remember the first 4 years that Farhan was running everything. Guys barely moved. Yeah. You had guys like Vaughn Brown and McRae having these insane seasons, and they sat at their levels for entire seasons. Now, they've plateaued. They haven't, Vaughn Brown plateaued. He's probably not going to ever get above AA. McRae kind of had a tough year. Hasn't really started hitting the ball or making a lot of contact. He's still striking out a ton. That's where I was trying to go with that. But he's continued to move on. But a lot of guys just didn't move. Now, Patilla comes up. He spends a week at a time at different levels. He talks a lot about that. And all of a sudden, you see guys getting advanced quicker. So I think he's doing a lot of the internal evaluations for the Giants farm system. Personally, that's just my belief. I have nothing to back this other than listening to different interviews and things like that. And Patilla talking about how he's going to these different levels and spending a whole week, watching these teams play. Also, number 2, Mike S. mentions going to Korea to watch Jung-Hoo Lee. I think it sounds like he played a major part in that recruitment. So I'm going to give him some credit there. And then number 3, the entire draft philosophy for the Giants changed when Patilla showed up.
Yes.
And I love their last 2 drafts.
Yes.
The previous 4, very much a mixed bag. I mean, 2019 and 2021 looked like giant whiffs. Yeah. And 2020 looks like it could be really good. How good, we'll see. I feel like we were all feeling better about it about mid-season last season than we do now. But, at least Bailey and Harrison look like they're going to be solid players. And Schmidt, the back, we'll see. Case is still out on that one. Yeah. And then 2022, we'll see. They might end up with a decent draft out of that. Wisenhunt's still a highly rated prospect. Birdsong's in the majors. Crawford might be a bullpen arm, but if those 3 guys are major league arms, you're going to feel pretty good about that draft. But the last 2 drafts, I felt like the philosophy changed, and it's a lot better than what they've done the first 4 years. So that's where I give Patilla credit. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, so Michael Holmes is like usually Holmes like they run the draft. I just can't say it's a coincidence that Patilla shows up and the philosophy changes.
Yeah.
I cannot think that that's a coincidence, but maybe it is. I mean, I'm not in the room. I don't know. It's entirely possible, but it's
I
just to me, it's odd that the second he shows up, they change the way they do it.
I think it's kind of like a collaborative effort because you saw Harris wasn't as involved to an extent with Holmes as it appears that Patilla is now. So I think it's more of like you touched on, kind of a philosophy change once Patilla got into that role, and he kind of helps out Holmes a lot more in an in-depth level.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I'm not going to be mad if they don't go Patilla if they were to move Farhan and they move, fine.
Yeah.
I'm not pounding the table for the guy. I just like him probably more than a lot of people do, and I'd be all for it. So
yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Pete for Pobo, first order of business is to trade for Kyle Tucker.
I wish I love Kyle Tucker. Yeah, he'd be awesome to have.
Yeah, Tucker's awesome. But yeah. All right, so we're going to cut over to the last topic that we had. And then if you guys have any questions you want us to answer at the end of this, put them in the chat. I am starring some stuff occasionally that we'll touch on later on. I think actually I only have like one of them in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead and throw anything in there if you want us to talk about it. The last thing is going to be Elias Diaz, who, he cleared waivers. He's now a free agent. Giants supposedly are interested in him. We're going to talk about kind of what his fit is. Does he make a lot of sense? Which I think in the immediate, yes, he does. But, I'm going to get your thoughts on that one, Dan. Tell me in the chat what you guys are thinking as well. But I'll kick it over to you first.
So there's a couple things with Elias Diaz. Am I interested? Very much so. Okay. However, and you kind of touched on this earlier, so I'm not going to steal your thunder.
Oh, you're good.
I'll let you elaborate. But he makes sense because I agreed 100%. And I thought the same way prior to you saying it. So that's why you and I are good friends.
Yeah.
He makes sense if you're serious about making a wild card push. He makes sense if you're planning on potentially keeping him going into next season. That's where he makes a lot of sense. And they kind of touched on it. I forgot who said it. Somebody in an interview said it with KNBR, how it's time to consider platooning Patrick Bailey. He's proven that he can't last the whole season. Mind you, he's not even playing daily, and he's still gets worn out after 2.5 months. It wasn't a one-time thing last year. He said he put on 20, 30 pounds to prevent that issue. The issue happened the exact same time. He's just not cut out for a whole season. And he's liability from the right side of the plate. Left side, he can be average, but right side, he's a liability. So it's time to consider getting another catcher that you can slide in as a platoon for Patrick Bailey. I hate platooning, but it makes the most sense for him. So if you're planning on making a push for the wild card, yes, I think you need Diaz for the rest of the season and a potential wild card and postseason run, because it's been proven that our 5 catchers that we played this season have combined for a total of 9 home runs. And that is amazing. I don't trust Reitz. I don't trust Casali. I don't trust Sable. I don't trust any of them to fill in for a playoff push in Bailey's place, especially if that side issue lingers longer than the 10-day. So if you're going to make a push, yes, get Elias Diaz in. If you're out of contention and you think there's really no hope and you don't plan on having him going into next season, I don't think there's much of a reason to pursue him.
Yeah, that's exactly where I stand. And playoff push aside, like, because I think that's a little bit of a stretch at this point, as we've kind of touched on earlier. I just don't see it happening. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see it happening. To me, if you don't intend on keeping him for 2025, it's kind of pointless.
Yeah,
like it's just you could do it and just have a better product on the field for a month and a half, but it's kind of pointless. It's just how I feel about it. But if you want to keep him for next season, I think he's a guy that could play 60 games, 70 games. Maybe you DH him on occasion, but like you could play him. a good amount along with Bailey, and Bailey will still get the majority of the reps. He'll still get, 60% of the playing time, but you've got to find a way to keep Patrick Bailey fresh because, as Dan said, he's proven he can't hold up. I mean, this is 2 straight seasons, and until he proves he can't. That's kind of how it is. So unfortunately, there's about a Joey Bart sized hole at the backup catcher position, but we're not going to go down that path today.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on that.
But yeah, I mean, it's you could use a guy like Diaz. I mean, he's a veteran. He's going to be 34 next season, I think. Yeah. So, he's a veteran, which is good. It's good to have a veteran. Casale being there is a good thing. It's just, again, if you're not going to do anything past this season, it doesn't make sense. But frankly, they need another backup for next season because I don't care if Tom Murphy is owed $4 million. Get that guy the hell away from this team. I don't want to watch him kicking balls again another season and throwing balls into the outfield or throwing 14 hoppers to second base. I'm tired of it.
There's been
I don't want to watch him again.
There's been rumors he might retire. Especially apparently that knee thing is like bad. He can't even squat anymore. And yes, Daniel, we've mentioned this as well. He's had, I believe, 4 or 5 diagnosed concussions just between college, minors, and big leagues. It's like he's got a handful of diagnosed concussions, and he just turned 25. So that's what I've been afraid of. Yes, he upgraded to the new mask that's supposed to help, but he's still at risk, man. And if he has one more, I mean, you saw with this last one, he did a 10-day IL stint, still had symptoms, had to do another 10-day IL stint and see a specialist. He was out about 4 weeks. So I think that's a big red flag. And that's why I've been, pounding the damn table for them to invest in catching depth because there's nothing. You've got Reitz, you've got Sable, and then you got someone that we drafted in like the 20th round. And that's pretty much it, man. Like, God forbid something happened and Bailey was out long-term, or if he had lingering concussion symptoms and went on like a 60-day IL stint, then you're going to roll with 36-year-old Casale with Jackson Reitz to back him up and think that's going to get you through the majority of the season. They've got to address the catching position. And so that's why, I mean, you and I both said it. Unless you're going to keep him long-term, it doesn't really make much sense for the last 30 games of the season to pursue Diaz. But I don't know. I just think in general, the catching position needs to be addressed this offseason for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And the thing, Diaz, I was just peeking at his left-handed, his splits against lefties. Last couple of years, it hasn't really been good. Even though he's a right-handed hitter, he's actually got a little bit of reverse splits going on. He's better against righties.
Yeah.
But as I've said, and I will continue to say, I do not care about offense out of my backup catcher.
Nope.
I don't. Now, Bart would have been awesome if he was doing what he's doing in Pittsburgh here. I'd never complain about that.
Yep.
I want my backup catcher to be solid defensively. Casale, he's solid at handling the staff and framing, blocking. Not a great arm, but that's fine. Like overall, solid defensively. He's fine. But I just Diaz is a solid defensive catcher, at least as far as I'm aware. I'd have to check his Savant page, but I've never had issues when I've watched him catching for Colorado. Yeah. I felt like he looked solid back there and comfortable. I feel like I always saw him making a lot of really good blocks and things like that when they played the Giants. So, maybe he just careered it every time he played the Giants, but last I checked, he's a pretty solid defensive catcher. And that I'm all for. So, my eyeball test that I've seen with him, he's pretty good. And the bat is just a plus. Like he's shown at times he can be pretty close to a league average bat. So if you're getting that kind of production, you're probably getting similar production offensively out of him than you're going to get out of Bailey anyway. Because Bailey at this point is showing he's probably 10, 15% worse than league average over the course of a full season. Now, granted, there might be a stretch of that where he's about 30% better than league average, and then a stretch where he's about 90% worse than league average. But that's kind of who he is in the last 2 years. But they've got to have something like behind him. They cannot go into another year where Bailey's going to get overplayed and then injured and
Yeah.
his plays falls off a cliff and everything in the last 2 months, because right now they are just throwing 3 or 4 outs a game away.
Easily.
And you can't do that. Not when you don't have stars in your lineup.
Yeah.
So, you're not the Dodgers. The Dodgers could, well, I mean, they have Will Smith, who's awesome, but like the Dodgers aren't, if Bailey was on the Dodgers, like he could make his 3 or 4 outs a game and no one would care.
Yeah.
Like they would not give a crap, but he's not. He's on a team that has no stars. So it's a problem. So
for sure.
100% agree, Mike.
Yes.
Put him at 8.
Yes.
Like I'd stick him at 8. I do like having a 9 hitter that kind of has some speed and things like that, but I'd stick him at 8 every game. For the rest of his career.
Yes.
Just stick him at 8.
No, and you're not wrong. It's true. Like he is a number 8 hitter. And I don't know. You guys know my thoughts on Patrick Bailey. I'm not gonna touch base on that because I don't want to go on a rant and make my migraine 10 times worse than it was earlier today. So I'm gonna keep my mouth zipped on that. But point blank, simple moral of the story. If you're gonna keep him next year, pursue Diaz. If you're not, don't even consider it. Regardless what you do, address the catching position this offseason. Get Bailey a personal trainer. Give him a David Goggins. Set him up with him for 6 months, and then get rid of Tom Murphy by all means and by all measures necessary. Get rid of him. He's got to go.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at how many games Buster Posey caught year to year, it was usually like 105, 110. Like he didn't catch that many. Like we're not like, that's the thing is like, as valuable as Bailey's glove is, like there just needs to be some kind of, prerequisite minimum standard for his offense. Like you just can't go out doing what he's doing right now. Like that is just unacceptable for a starting catcher. If he was a backup doing this, I would not care, as I've said many times. But
the thing with Buster though is that yes, he would catch 105, 110 games a season. Yeah. But when he wasn't catching, he was still playing. He was at first base. And even after in his 12th year of his career, he was still doing that, playing 135 games a season, 140 games a season. And not once, even when he was in his 30s, did you hear, oh, he's fatigued. Like he was just an animal. So that's why it just blows my mind when you have 24-year-old Patrick Bailey running out of gas after June. So I don't know. That's where I stand.
2012 through 2017, Posey played 148, 148, 147, 150, 146, and 140 games.
Yeah, same.
So they found a way to get him in. Heard the dogs.
Yeah, he's on guard dog mode right now. Hey, stop.
Something spooked him. But yeah. All right, let's hop in. Anybody start chucking questions in there, and then we'll probably get going. I think we're doing a hard stop at 9:30, so if you guys want to throw anything in there, we'll jump through it. The one I did flag earlier, Walker Martin, time to be worried. Yeah, it's alarming. I mean, that's what I would say. I don't know if I've hit worried yet. I think next season, get a full off season where he's healthy. He had a oblique injury last season. That's why he didn't play at all after he got drafted. And then slow start and everything. He had a hamstring issue, I think, or a couple hamstring issues in spring training. I'd like to see him get healthy. I'd like to see him play. And then just now he's seeing A-ball. Let's see what he does next season, see if he makes progress. But it's definitely alarming. I mean, this is a guy that had a 50 grade hit tool. And last time I checked, guys with 50 grade hit tools don't strike out 50+% of the time. So that's a problem. Yeah. Like that's concerning for sure. But I don't know if I'm like, oh God, give up on this guy or anything like that. I'm definitely not at that point, but I'm definitely concerned seeing all these strikeouts.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's time to panic, but it's time to at least, look into it and be a little bit iffy. So that's what I say.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I just yeah, it's just concerning. That's all I can really say.
Yeah.
So, any news?
I haven't heard anything about Reggie Crawford since June. I don't know if you've got any
Not I neither
updates
have I.
inside. Yeah, I haven't heard any.
June
Last I
was the
heard
last time.
it was what, bicep soreness or something like that, and then I haven't heard anything since.
Yeah, he showed up to the Rickwood game. They said he had a biceps impingement, whatever the hell that means,
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's like a nerve thing or what, but they said biceps impingement, and after that, they were saying he was going to go to Arizona, start throwing at the facility there in Scottsdale, and
nothing since.
I thought he would have been back in AAA by now, throwing in games, and he is not. So
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. It seems like that guy's good for about 20 innings a season, and
yeah,
that's going to be his cap. I mean,
yeah. No bueno.
that's concerning.
Yeah,
That one I am worried about.
yeah.
I know it's early, but can either of you identify which bats we may pursue in the off season?
Ha-Seong Kim, maybe,
Like qualify as a bat?
kind of. He can swing a bat.
he swings a piece of wood. It counts. Technically, it's more than Bailey does.
Yeah, no kidding.
I would say of position players in free agency, Ha-Seong Kim is probably if we don't count Chapman. I'm not going to count Chapman. I think they're going to try, and I think it's actually, I mean, it is Boris, so I mean, I guess I don't know, but Chapman did make some comments that were pretty strong in regards to an extension, where he said, "I'm waiting on the Giants."
Yeah,
he made it pretty clear he's where he wants to be, and I get it. Like, he's a California guy. I don't think he has really interest in playing for the Angels. The Dodgers ain't going to pay him, to play third there, and and he's not going to go play in Sacramento. So, I get it. He's where he wants to be, but what does that deal have to look like? Because I'm not giving him 5+ years. Like, there's no chance in hell.
I'm going 4 max. Honestly, I'd go 4 max with an option for the 5th year. Boris is
Four for like
option,
90.
so yeah, that's what I would do. 490, 495.
Yeah, I could live with that.
That comes out to what, like 22.5 per year, something like that. Maybe he
Yeah.
takes a hometown discount. Who knows?
Yeah, I could live with that. I could live with 4. It's still more than I'd really want. If you could find a way to give him 3 for 75, I don't know, go a little higher AAV maybe. I'd prefer that, but I feel like it's probably going to take 4 if you want to get the extension done. But aside from Chapman, I think we've talked about Adames in the past for free agency. I could see that if they really want to go shortstop.
Yeah, I could see that.
He's a bit of a run producer. I do like that about him. Not a guy that hits for a high average. He's got a lot of similarities to Chapman. Very glove first, some pop, drives in some runs. But I don't know. That's a guy. Kim, you mentioned. I think those are the 2 free agents. I mean, they're obviously they're gonna try and finish second for Soto. So
we all know they're gonna pursue Soto, and we all know we're gonna be disappointed. So it's not really worth talking about. We're gonna be we're gonna be the bridesmaid on that one. And then I know a lot of fans have wanted Alonso. I don't see that happening, personally speaking.
Yeah, I don't want Alonso personally. I like the power, but I just, to me, if you're gonna go the first base route with a guy, because we have Eldridge on the way. If you're gonna go the first base route with a guy, I personally would rather go make a trade for
Vladdy, yes.
Who I like his overall hit tool much more than I like Pete Alonso.
The only way I see them pursuing Alonso is if it turns into like a Chapman Snell scenario where the market isn't there, and then come, February, March, he settles on one of these 3-year deals with an option after each year, player option that is, and it's 30 mil a year, something like that. That's the only way I can see it happening.
Yeah. And I don't know what New York might have on the way, but I kind of feel like if he ends up having to do that, he's just going to go back to New York for another year.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that's what my gut would tell me.
Yeah. I can't see him going across the country just for a 1-year deal, especially in Oracle. So
yeah,
I don't see it happening, but like you touched on, those other three are a lot, more realistic.
For sure. As far as trades go, though,
I would love Vladdy.
I think Vladdy's an option. Supposedly, they wanted to trade for him at the deadline.
You and Ricky talked about it. If you offer Toronto, Matos, Wisenhunt, and Luciano.
Yep.
Matos, Wisenhunt, Luciano for Vladdy. I think they might take it. What's it say? Oh, look, right there. See?
Right there.
George, we think alike, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wisenhunt, Matos, and Luciano.
It's a hefty package, but it is one that I would do.
Contingent on an extension, though. Yes. I'm not doing that for no 1-year rental. It's contingent on an extension.
I was texting Dan and Ricky today. I was saying I had dreams of 2026. The Giants roster is, they're going. Fitzgerald's leading off. Lee's hitting second. Vladdy's hitting third. Eldridge is hitting fourth. Ramos is hitting fifth. Tibbs is hitting sixth. I was like, this is a lineup I could get behind.
Yes. And you got Caveman Dan as the president of baseball operations. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. You kind of answered him in the chat, but I believe I asked this 1 or 2 weeks ago. You guys originally said probably not, but do you think Eldridge finishes in Double A? He's forcing it, man.
Yeah.
Like he's making a really strong case. I mean, he hit 3 home runs last week. I mean, let me see. I have my notes here because I'm not going to pull up his game log. I have my notes from the minor leagues. He's hit a home run this week. He hit 3 home runs last week. Do I have week before in here? No, triple and 3 doubles the week before, and then the week before that he had 2 home runs. So in the last month, basically, or 3.5 weeks, he's hit 6 home runs in high A. I mean, and a whole lot of extra base hits. He's got like a 980 OPS there. I haven't even looked at what he's done today. Wouldn't shock me if someone told me he hit another one. I know he struck out in the first. That's all I saw before we hopped on this. I think he should get a chance in Double A for a cup of coffee, but I don't know if they will. It's just that's how they operate. Like my gut says no, but I think he's earned it. This is the best answer I can give.
Yeah, like I said in the chat 2 weeks ago, I would have said probably not. Now it's like, who knows? It's not the way they typically go about their business in terms of development and moving people guys up. But like you said, he's pretty much forcing his way up and saying like, "Yo, move me up to Richmond." So who knows?
Yeah. All right. Rob says, "What happens to Schmidt if we sign Chapman? Could get traded. Maybe they keep playing him at second base.
I was going to say
we've into a utility guy.
I was going to say it seems to me like they've been playing him at second a lot more lately.
Yeah.
Maybe that's their vision for him. Who knows?
I'm not ready to give up on the guy. I mean, he's showed improvement in AAA. He hasn't translated it to the majors. Now he looks marginally better in the majors. His power's playing more up in San Francisco than it did last season. Now the plate discipline hasn't quite, he made big strides in Sacramento. It hasn't made it, they haven't translated up to San Francisco yet. I still think if he can get it figured out, he can actually be a pretty solid player. And his defense has actually been really good at second base. I felt like at shortstop, he's just always going to have kind of average range. Second, I mean, it's not going to be it's not going to be great range or anything like that, but it's still solid at second. But overall, he does a lot of things really well at second base, especially dropping tags. My God.
He's he bails Bailey out a lot.
Yeah. So, let's see, Mike, who would you rather have, Max Fried or Burns? I've heard that Fried made it well known that he wants to go back home west, and Burns is from NorCal. Without knowing their ages, I'd probably lean Burns.
Yeah.
I know Burns is like early 30s. I don't know what Fried's at.
I was just going to ask how old are they? Because that's what would kind of influence my decision. But just going based off names, I would go Burns. But again, contingent with age.
Let's see. Max Fried. Fried is 30.
Okay.
I'd lean Burns because he might be like 2 years younger than.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd lean.
I'd lean Burns.
Yeah, I'd lean Burns. Okay, next one. We're not going to agree to trade. Okay, we already put that one up. Grant, what's the Vladdy trade package? Earlier we said we would give Lucy, Matos, and Wiz.
Yeah,
and I would bite the bullet if you can extend them. Like it kind of a contingent on that. But yeah. Tibbs is in Eugene. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm like skipping through this. If Bryce keeps us up in AA next year, can he skip AAA to the majors? If Bryce does what he's doing in high A to AAA, in high A to AA, I honestly would kind of seriously consider it.
Yeah.
At that point, I don't really think he gets much benefit out of AAA, given how much more difficult it is to hit in AA than it is to hit in the PCL. So I think there's certainly an argument for that.
Yeah, it's like I said, I'd love to see it, and I would definitely I'd make the case and the argument for it. It's just based on, the development track record over the last 6 years. I just can't see it happening. It'd blow my mind if they moved up a 20-year-old straight from AA to the big leagues, and I would love to see it, but just based on track record, I don't know.
Aha, I found it. Hold, please.
Holding.
This is for anybody that missed the Bryce Eldridge home run. Excuse the crappy quality on this. Look at where this thing lands.
Can't even see where it lands.
It's like halfway out in the field. The thing was an absolute nuke.
It had a Ford F-150 right in the rearview mirror back there, man. Good Lord.
That road was not safe. Nobody knew it, but the road wasn't safe.
Yeah, he's a monster, dude. Here's my thing with the whole Eldridge and Vladdy situation. I was talking with Derek about this earlier. I don't think it'd be an issue, and this is why. If you have Vladdy for the next year or two at first base, and then Eldridge comes up, that's a great problem to have. Because one, we've seen it nowadays in the new age of baseball, analytics, matchups, blah, blah, blah. Cool, you're going to have a lefty on the mound, and you want us to go analytical? All right, go ahead and face Vladdy. Oh, you got a righty? Go ahead and face Bryce. Okay, or if you want them both to line up at the same time, Bryce at first, Vladdy at DH. Oh, Bryce needs a day off. Swap it. Throw Vladdy at first base, Bryce at DH. I mean, there's so much that you can do because right now it's basically what they're doing with Wilmer Flores and Lamont Wade. Yeah. So all you're doing is upgrading that scenario times 10. So I think it's a great problem to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Just give them a day off occasionally defensively. I know Will Clark thinks that Eldridge can win a Gold Glove at first. Yeah. So, if he's as good defensively as they think he can be, then you're not going to want to give him too many days off at first. But the fact that you can just DH Vladdy and then occasionally just throw him out there at first base, cool. I mean, I've said I'm not a big fan of having a full-time DH because generally speaking, I'm not. But it's different when it's a guy like Vladdy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a legit middle of the order game-changing bat. It's not a Jorge Soler where it's like, oh, well, when he gets hot, he can do something. Yeah. Vladdy he's an impactful bat even when he's not hot. Like, he's still a guy that strikes fear in the opponent's pitcher. He's still a guy that can flip a game with it one swing. He's still a guy that can drive in runs when you need it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, this is an imposing presence. And the thought process of having him and Bryce hitting 3 and 4 in the middle of the lineup, yeah, sign me up, please.
I know you kind of touched on this when you were texting us earlier, but looking at the comment section, just imagine, Cody. You see the lineup for the game, and it goes Jung Hoo Lee, Ha-Sung Kim, Bryce Eldridge, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., James Tibbs, Elliot Ramos, and that's your 1 through 6 right there. Then at 7, you slide in what? Luis Matos if he takes over.
You forgot Tyler Fitzgerald.
Oh, I'm still going, man.
Yeah. Is he hitting like 7th for you?
No, 7 you got Matos, 8 you got Bailey, and then 9 you got Fitz. Ooh. Just imagine, man. Oh, and the thing is
that a good problem.
The thing is that can happen if Farhan just gets the hell out of here, man.
Yeah. And I've always said, and I said it to Dan earlier in them, I've always said, as long as Farhan's here, there is a chance that he can change my opinion on him.
Yeah.
You always have a chance, because I keep my opinions fluid. I give him a fair shot every year. Most years he disappoints me. It is what it is. But I give him a fair shake. And if he were to go make a bold move for a Vladdy and get an extension, and yeah, Rob, I totally get it. He'd have to be on board. Now there are some things that work in their favor. The Vladimir Guerrero family is pretty close with Felipe Alou, for those that are unaware, who is still, he's still kicking, which is good. So maybe we got to hurry this thing up, because I think he's looking really old the last time I saw him. So, but yeah, I think for the right payday, he'll sign an extension. That's just my opinion on it. But this is my lineup right here, pretty much. Isn't this like almost what I texted you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Fitz, Lee, Vladdy, Eldridge, Ramos, Tibbs, Chapman, Bailey, Kim. Hell, I even said you can maybe even turn Meckler into a second baseman, and I'd probably be more on board with the guy who, oh God, hold on.
Do you have the video?
Let me see if I can find it.
Oh,
I think I posted it as a YouTube short. Let me
see. People ask me all the time, "What's your deal with Wade Meckler? Why don't you like the guy? He's a good hitter." What Cody's about to show you is the reason why I don't like the guy, dude. I can't with this guy.
Let me see if okay, I'm just gonna have to screen share the YouTube.
Yeah,
this is a one short. I went to the game, so I went to the Sacramento River Cats versus Tacoma Rainiers game on Tuesday. And I'm sitting there, I'm videoing like all the big hitters coming up. Of course, I go on the wrong day, because yesterday all the good stuff happens with Matos and Luciano and Bishop and all these guys. Although I did see Bishop try to get tossed, which was hilarious. But I go to the game, and the only good video I get out of the entire game where the Giants or the River Cats mustered all of 3 hits was this little what's this video?
You're gonna make me angry, Cody.
Singles. It's just so stupid.
What is he doing, man?
That was the first hit of the game, and dude just comes out. Just look at this epic bat toss for a 14 hopper up the middle. Like, what are we doing? I just can't.
See,
I can't.
And then you combine it with that defensive blunder that he made, where he like jumped at the last second. What are you doing?
Yeah. So I'm watching that, and of course, I wish I was recording it and I could show people that video, but he misplays. It was the first hit that they gave up, and of course they don't rule it an error, because why would they? But Mason Black kind of got screwed on that. Black was throwing a really good game. Now, granted, the guy hit it hard. Meckler like almost stopped running. He like ran, and it was like he completely stopped. And I was like, what the hell is he doing? I thought he was going to like play it off the wall. And then he like lunges at it, and he comes up just short of the ball. And it's like, dude, like, easily should have been a catch if he just kept going. So I don't know, man. This guy makes at least one play a game in the outfield where you're like scratching your head at what he just did. So put him at second. I'm not saying like dump the guy. I know Dan feels a little stronger about that than I do, but just put him back at second base. That's what he played in college. He's not an outfielder. Just I'm done. So
and that experiment, throw him at second, let him be a pinch hitter off the bench guy. I'd be fine with that.
For sure. So, all right. On that one, I did say we're going to try and hard stop this thing at 9:30. So we're gonna get going on this one. Ryan, I'll throw your comment up. Don't sign Matt Chapman unless you get one side. Chapman cannot hit in the clutch. Yeah, I mean, if Chapman was hitting seventh in your lineup, you'd feel a lot better about him. That's the only thing I can really say about that.
I was just gonna say, Chappie would be fine on this team if you had a competent team to build around him, and you're hitting him in the 6 or 7 hole. The fact that our current roster is constructed of a bunch of 6, 7, 8 hitters, Chapman's kind of forced to back clean up most of the time, and it doesn't end well. So, I'm fine with keeping him if you improve the lineup in general. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, and his defense is clearly valuable. Like, he's won them some games with his glove. Like, I give him
single-handedly, yeah.
And his bat on the whole has been, we talked about it a few shows ago, his bat on the whole has been very, it's been kind of as advertised. I mean, he's actually given them his normal production. He's having a really good season. So I could live with it for, a couple of years. He just needs to not be their cleanup hitter. Exactly. That's a problem. So
exactly.
As always, appreciate everybody here. If you're watching on YouTube, please do drop down, hit the like, subscribe to the channel. If you're not already, we're trying to get to 700 by the end of the year. The ultimate goal is 1,000. We're going to do a giveaway of some sort. I have no clue what that giveaway is going to be. I'm going to the River Cats game on Saturday. I'm going to the Giants game Friday, River Cats game Saturday. We're going to try and get there early. Maybe I'll try and peruse the guys there and try and get some autographs for some giveaways.
That'd be cool.
Be like, hey, you guys want to do an interview in the off season?
That'd be sick if you ever land that. That'd be so
cool. Get one of the kids.
Yeah. So, that'd be dope.
Yeah. But we don't know what it's going to be yet, but we're going to figure something out. But we'll let you know. But yeah, please do hit the like, subscribe, hit the video or the bell for notifications. We do still try and do the lives every Thursday or Friday, usually each week. It'll be one of those 2 days. And next week I'll probably be putting out a little bit more videos than normal. This week, hopefully I can get some shorts out, but they need some decent stuff to happen at the game outside of, a Meckler bat toss. So
here's hoping, man. Here's hoping.
Yeah.
Let's have a good series.
Yeah. Okay. Friday. Wait, Ryan, are you going to the game this Friday? In Seattle? Like tomorrow, Friday?
Oh, no.
Oh, in Seattle. Damn. Okay. I was all excited. I was like, dude, text me. I was like, we're going to be at the game. So I'll come find you. But all right. Funny enough, really quick. Actually, this is the last thing before I turn it off. I was telling Dan, it was absolutely hilarious at the River Cats game. There was these fans that I swear to God, these guys must have season tickets to the Rainiers games, because last year I went to a Sacramento game and these same 2 guys were there. These guys that were just drinking beer and heckling guys all game. They were ruthlessly heckling Blake Sable. It was hilarious. And they even started busting out the Joey Bart's better. Where's Joey Bart? Because Bart has been in Sacramento the last couple times. It was so funny. They sold 3 bags on Sable. I was dying, man. So heckling. I had to share that one. But yeah, sorry, Logan. We're popping off here. Thanks for jumping in. You'll have to scroll back on the show there, but appreciate all you guys. But we're gonna dip out.